Grind don't stop. 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 Grind don't stop.
Hello, everybody. It is
Hi.
August 13th at 6 p.m. Central Time, and this is Chewed Gum. This is the show where we talk about like feminism and purity culture and the patriarchy and kind of how God belief intertwines to all of those things. So if any of that interests you and you'd like to give us a call, the number is 720-619-2288. We will be diving into calls shortly, but do a little catch up. This is my first show in like 2 weeks, and I know I already feel rusty. Like there's definitely going to be some sort of hiccup along the way, so we'll watch and see how that goes. But yes, I'm your host tonight, Arden Hart, and with me is Stacie. What's up, Stacie?
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me back again. It's been a couple months, but I'm so excited to be here with you again.
Well, we love to have you here. So, I mean, I love to have you here. I'm excited it's going to be
Yeah.
the two of us again. And I mean, I know you just got back from Bajakan. We were talking about that in the free show, which is like,
Yes.
not everyone gets to go to these atheist conventions, but I think it
Mhm.
is like a really cool opportunity to like connect and to like
Yeah.
bond with people who you share that value with, because it's like kind of hard to just like bump into atheists in like day-to-day life. So I don't know if you wanted to like share any of that with the audience, kind of what that was like. And
Yeah, it was so my mom and I went to Bajakan, which is in Sarnia, Ontario. It was our very first event of this kind since being a part of this community. And we had the best time. We just got back yesterday afternoon, and it was a whirlwind trip, like 4 days of just nonstop getting to meet so many incredible people that are, you know, high profile on YouTube, but also just people who we have connected with in chats and on Patreon and just through messages. And it's like you don't have to just be someone who's well known to go and connect with people. So the speaker lineup was fantastic. A lot of people who have gone to a ton of different events like this have said that Bajakan is definitely one of the best ones. So Hemet Meta was the first speaker. There was Seth Andrews, Aaron Raw. Who else was there? Oh my gosh, my brain. Forrest Valkai, Drew Bakius. There was I met a bunch of new women that I had never met. Kate Cohen, she's a writer for the Washington Post. Melanie Tressick King. Yvette, who's the Psy Babe. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's fantastic.
I've heard
Just
of her.
so many women that I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So I'm sure I'm forgetting a few names. Oh, David Fitzgerald, Dr. Joshua Bowen. Yeah, it was just an amazing lineup. And then there was a lot of people that came like I did. So I got to meet Godless Engineer and his wonderful wife, and Vice Rhino, and Neil the 604 Atheist. So it was just amazing. And the way that you kind of connect with people online, once you see them, it's like you're finally meeting your family. It felt like a family reunion. And I was so blown away that there was people there that had just met for the first time after knowing each other for like 6 or 7 years. And I thought that they had met multiple times before. So if you're able to attend an event like this at some point, like this was an event that I had been planning for the last like year and a half and just saving up to go to. I highly, highly recommend making this something that you try to go to because it was freaking awesome. And if you don't know where Sarnia is, because even though I'm Canadian, I had no clue. I'd never heard of it before in my life, but it's right on the Canada-US border. A lot of people flew into Detroit and then they just crossed over, and it's super easy to cross by land. So yeah, it was fantastic. So
No, that's really cool. I think one of my favorite things about some of the shows we've gone to, at least, I mean, I guess it's mostly been on like the south part of the US, because that's what I'm closest to, is there are some people that I run into that I only see at these expos. And when I see them, it really is like that family reunion where I'm like, oh my God, like we had so much fun together and now I get to see you again. And like, yeah, it is just so cool. Because I think a lot of us go home for holidays and stuff, and it's like, you know, we love our family maybe, and maybe even have good relationships with them, but you can't like talk about everything because atheism is usually not like a hot button topic at the family dinner table.
Yes.
But like this is one of those places where you can do that. Or even like I felt like a lot of the conversations I had at expos were like the atheism stuff kind of almost fell to the side a little bit because you could just kind of like that was just presumed that was there, you know, and you could just kind of be normal about everything else, which is like so cool.
Yeah, you do connect on like a whole other level. Like I connected with a couple of ladies that I had met for the first time, and we were able to just like dive into these real like deep conversations like right off the bat, and you could just almost just like share your heart, just share everything about you, and it's just like, no, I get it because I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through, and like we had just met, but it's like we knew each other in a whole other way just because of this, and you have to cram so much conversation in a short period of time, but it almost makes it more valuable because you're like, okay, when am I going to see you next? We have to just make the most of this. So it was a fantastic, fantastic weekend that I'm like, oh, when am I going to get to do that again next year? But
that makes me so happy. It's really nice to get that sense of community. So we do have lines open. I'm going to run through some announcements real quick, and then we will get to callers. So one more time, that number is 720-619-2288. And we'll also read all super chats of $5 or more at the end of the show. This week coming up in shows, tomorrow night, let me see if I can find my place. Here we go. Tomorrow night on the Hang Up is going to be Matt Dillahunty with Andrew Seidel, which... oh my God, with everything going on in the politics world, that's going to be a really interesting show. So I would definitely hit the notification bell for that one. Thursday on Takis will be myself and Josie Caballero. Next Sunday's Sunday show will be Eric and Forrest Valkai. And then the After Dark will be Matt and Forrest Valkai. Clearly trying to cram Forrest in as much as we can while we have some time with him. Then Forrest is also going to be hosting Skep Talk on next Monday. And then Alyssa will be hosting Chewed Gum next Tuesday, but I don't know who her guest is. So I'm sure we'll have more information for y'all on that before next week comes around. But until then, Stacie, you ready to hit some callers?
Yes.
All right.
Definitely.
Let's see. Both of these look really interesting. I'm going to take Matthew in Ohio. The theist, pronouns he, him, says God cares about purity and humans already do. Matthew, you are live on the line. What's going on?
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hi.
So,
what's up?
Well, doing good. So I just want to kind of get started with, there are a lot of women in their 40s, 20s, and 30s that are sleeping around with their clients or students. Or their young clients and students. Do you guys find that problematic? Or concerning?
That's an extremely loaded question and lacks so many details. Like, if people are engaged in statutory offenses of
they're engaged
minors,
in sexual
then
activity with their young clients or their minor clients. These are a
if
lot of
they're
reports are coming out of these females.
Crimes and potentially harming minors, that's definitely a problem. Crazy way to start off, though. What the hell? Like, I'm sure. It's so wild to start a conversation and be like, some women are assaulting minors. Do you rebuke that? Like, okay, what?
Well, this is my point. The reason why I'm saying this is because as I said before, that God cares about our purity, and I think we do too. Just as you kind of expressed, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Why would they do that? That's horrible, you know? So, and why would you even bring that up? But that is, that if you find that concerning, I guess my question would be, why are you so concerned with these women's sex life?
Okay. So when we're talking about purity culture and trying to convince
Yeah.
people to not be interested in people's sex lives, that's talking about enthusiastic, informed consent, which
Mhm.
can't happen with a minor. I mean, maybe there's some minor out there who has the mind of a 30-year-old. I don't fucking know, but we know that it is average enough that young people aren't able to give informed, enthusiastic consent that we have set an arbitrary cap of 18, and I think that seems pretty fair. So I'm against people who can't engage in like ethical, consensual sexual activities, but that has nothing to do with purity. So
Mhm.
this is a weird angle,
you would say
very
that-
hostile beginning.
You would say there are unethical sexual activities then?
Yeah, I just laid it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, let's say somebody has a disease, right, and they're sleeping around with people. We would be concerned with their purity, correct?
It's not concerned with their
I don't think that's
purity.
purity. That has
They're-
nothing to do with
If
purity.
they're sleeping around and not informing their sexual partners, those partners are not informed. This is part of
Mhm.
informed, enthusiastic consent.
So informed, enthusiastic consent.
Correct.
I think purity is just, it's another word that's kind of made up by the church, kind of just to keep people in line. I don't think there's anything real about actual purity.
Okay, so
That's
you think
not
it's made up. So you don't even believe it exists.
purity? No.
Yeah. So how would you define it anyway? I know you don't believe it exists, but how are you defining? You are talking about it.
Yeah, because it's a term that's used by what other term, like where other places do you hear the word purity besides in like in a religious sense?
Okay,
You
so
don't
how
hear
would they
that
define
in
it, I guess, or how are you understanding their definition of it?
They're talking about like a
Right.
spiritual, like a spiritual dirtiness, right? Like when you engage in sexual behavior, even if it's informed
Mhm.
and enthusiastically consented to, if God
Mhm.
doesn't like that kind of consent, it makes you dirty and bad. That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about with purity culture.
Yeah.
So it makes you dirty and bad.
On like a spiritual level, like a spiritual like dirtiness. That's what you want to cleanse to be pure from.
Mm-hmm. And so these
Yeah.
are religious sects that go around telling people that they're dirty and bad because they're having.
If you engage in premarital sex, if you engage in sex
Mhm.
outside of marriage, that's where you are no longer pure in that sense. You're no
So you-
longer pure for your future spouse. Yeah. When
So
you learn
you're
about like, are you going to let me finish? If you
No, please
learn
go ahead.
about sex in like public school, you never hear the term pure or purity. You like that's not brought up
Mhm.
in like secular sex education at all. The only time you
Mhm.
ever hear purity is in a religious setting. So
Mhm.
that's why
So do
I
you
don't
think that
believe in it.
Mhm. Do you think that the
What?
religious people would call the acts of these women that I mentioned earlier impure from their definition?
Well, you just said like women who are in their 40s sleeping with their younger clients. So like you
Yeah.
didn't really specify an age. So like if a woman in their 40s is sleeping with a
They're-
younger person who's in like say their
Mhm.
20s, as long as they're both consensual, I actually don't see anything wrong with that scenario at all.
even if it's a client,
What do you mean by
Well, I mean,
client?
yeah, but like, I don't know what kind of client. If they're
a
sleeping for
client or
like some
student.
sort
Okay,
of personal gain, then yeah. But if they're just
say
say there's a connection, if there's a connection and there's nothing to do with anything that's like business related, I don't know. Then as long as that's not interfering in their actual like business relationship, and that's set aside, and that can happen, then you're just being you're making a very broad statement. So
Yeah, let me narrow
as
it
far
up a
as a
little bit.
40-year-old
So
woman sleeping with a 20-something-year-old, as long as
Mhm.
they're all both on the same page and it's informed consent, then I don't have a problem with that at all.
so let's
And I
narrow it
don't
a
think it
little
is
bit.
impure. And I don't even if the script was flipped and it was a 40-year-old guy sleeping with a 20-something-year-old woman and it was both informed consent, I still don't see a problem with that, and I don't see it as impure.
Right, and you don't really
And that-
believe in impurity anyway, but
But I'm just using your terms.
right. Well, I want to say, would it be problematic if it was a client? When I say a client, I mean, let's say you're a social worker, a 40-year-old social worker sleeping with her 21-year-old client. Would you say that's problematic or
Well,
not?
there's definitely like things that are like, okay, no, you don't want to cross certain boundaries in situations.
Mhm.
Like, but
Yeah.
that's a completely different situation than just giving a certain ages,
Like,
I think.
I just mean you personally. You said that you didn't. You said that you don't care if they're 40-year-olds, and you asked what I mean by client. So I'm explaining what I mean by client.
okay.
Would you
Well,
personally
Matthew,
think that's
Sure.
problematic?
this is the problem with client is client could refer
Yeah.
to a therapist and their patient,
Yeah.
which would be
Yeah,
there'd be
exactly.
a
Right,
power
that's what I'm
dynamic
talking
where
about.
there would be a
Okay.
power dynamic where informed consent might be difficult to attain, or it could mean like a sex worker engaging in ethical consented
That's
sex.
why I narrowed it down.
Okay, I didn't
Well,
feel
if
very
it
narrow,
was,
but
no, it
anyway.
didn't. But in that case too, then I think you would have to end that. One of the relationships would have to end. You couldn't continue both. Like you'd either have to stop the relationship if it was, say, a therapist and a client. If, say, there was sort of some kind of romantic interest, you would have to be like, okay, well, now we can no longer be a therapist and a client because now we have a romantic interest. Like, no longer is this appropriate, and decide to go that route. I don't think both can continue.
So you would see it as inappropriate.
Well, yeah, I just because we don't believe in purity culture doesn't mean that we don't. For me at least, I don't think that all things are like. There is certain things that are inappropriate just because I don't believe in purity culture, and I do
Right.
have standards.
So what's the difference between, from in your mindset, what's the difference between impure, and inappropriate?
It has to depend on the situation. Like
I think
if you're gonna just throw different scenarios, like it would literally go by case.
and like for me,
Okay.
purity is specifically talking about like it's like a spiritual concept. Like we're talking about
Exactly.
like
Okay.
the difference between somebody being unethical and maybe needing to
Mhm.
either cease relationship with a client or lose their license or some sort of punitive measure, and somebody like offending God, potentially risking going to hell because what
Mhm.
their sexual act was spiritually impure. It's not just anything that's unethical.
Okay, I see. Now, do you think that somebody, because you guys, I'm assuming both you, Arden, you also do not believe in purity as a thing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So would you say that the religious people, since we're using their language, purity, would you say that they would see and I'm talking a younger client that is 14 years old and a 20-year-old social worker, if she was sleeping with that 14-year-old, would you think they will call her impure?
I mean, I think it's actually complicated because I think there's a lot of religious communities that if the genders were reversed would totally endorse a strong patriarchal man taking into, not all, but there are many and some who are like in Congress and will
Probably.
defend bills on this kind of stuff who would defend that kind of
Mhm.
relationship. But I think most people are going to have an immediate visceral gut that's disgusting reaction probably.
But what do you mean by disgusting? Like, what is disgusting about it?
Like this woman is knowingly trying to engage with a child who can't give informed consent.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of goes against
So
the
you're
law.
saying that the people that you're referring to that use this word purity would see it as impure.
I think there would be an element of it where they see the spiritual impurity, and I think there would be the other element of it where they have a moral, ethical objection to what's going on. I don't think they're
Okay.
I don't think they're orthogonal, but I don't think they're also like the same thing. Like there's maybe some overlap, but they aren't one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's overlap. So sexual impurity, from their point of view, is a broad thing. It's not just sex outside of marriage. It's on any type of sexual act that is not appropriate.
According to that specific religious sect, yeah.
Right. So I guess I don't really see a difference between impure and inappropriate, if that makes sense. I think if if you're doing something quote impure,
Yeah, I
it's
can help
because
you.
it's inappropriate.
No, actually, that's not the same. When they're talking about impurity,
Okay.
they're talking about a spiritual impurity, which is not something you can demonstrate. You can't demonstrate that gay
Mhm.
people having sex is impure and is going to send them to hell. You can't demonstrate that having extramarital sex is impure and will condemn them to hell. You can demonstrate that violating the consent of a child will cause them
Yeah.
harm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You also can't demonstrate having lustful thoughts is impure, which is another thing that religion would
Mm.
say, because the scripture, the Bible, about, lusting after someone is like committing adultery in your heart. That
Mhm,
would be
mhm.
considered something that's impure. And again, I don't think that that is impure. I don't believe in that.
So with that being said, let's say you maybe there was, I won't use you in an example, but let's say there's a couple, right? And two couples, four people, and the guy calls a couple over. He calls his wife in the room, and the couple comes over, and he says to the husband of the other wife, he says, "Hey, I've been having lustful thoughts about your wife, and I'm not going to do anything, but I just been thinking about her every night before I go to bed. I think about your wife instead of my wife. And are you guys cool with that?
Okay.
How do you think that the response would be with that?"
Oh my God, you ask.
I mean, is he
So,
confessing because he's a Christian and he feels the need to confess, or is he just
No,
an
no.
average
These are
person who's
secular people. They're not Christian at all. They're just secular people.
okay?
They're, hey, buddy,
Most secular people
I think about your
feel the
wife.
need to say that,
so sorry, I don't
or
want to
if they
interrupt you, Stacie.
no. I was just saying,
Mm.
most people don't feel the need to say that, because a lot of people just have those thoughts because they're normal human beings. And did you say what?
I understand that. This is a hypothetical.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a,
you have a
yeah,
lot of hypotheticals.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get to what the fuck your point is.
Yeah, exactly. Are you just coming like you
So
have a lot of
I
hypotheticals?
just
What is
want
your
to
point?
understand your idea of lustful thoughts about someone not being a bad thing or not being something inappropriate.
It's
As long as you're
inappropriate.
not hurting someone, there's nothing inappropriate about it. As long as
Right.
Okay, so one person says it's inappropriate, another person says it's not. So I think Arden said it's inappropriate, and you say
Okay,
it's not
no,
inappropriate.
hold on, Matthew. God, you are steamrolling
Mhm.
today. I've produced like 10 calls with you and been on like 5 calls with you. I don't know what's up with you tonight. You are
Mhm.
like on a steam train. It's driving me crazy. It's inappropriate
Sorry, I'll slow it down.
potentially to voice that to someone. It's totally okay and normal to have sexualized thoughts about people in your brain because you don't have control over every thought that pops into your brain. And
Mhm.
sexuality is a normal function of human behavior. It's totally fine to have a horny thought
Okay,
about you.
no,
Hold on, shut the
sorry.
fuck up. It's totally normal and fine to have a horny thought about your best friend's wife. Nobody gives a shit. I guarantee you, if they were just the two of them, the dude would be like, "That's kind of weird, man. I didn't need to know that." But I don't think most people are going to be judgmental of their friend having thoughts. But if you voice those thoughts to people, that is potentially where you get into behavior being inappropriate. And it seems like you are, what is your motivation for telling me? I think this is what Stacie was trying to get to a minute ago. Like, what is the motivation for bringing this up? Because that's where it could get inappropriate. Are you trying to like make me uncomfortable? Are you trying to make a pass at my wife? Are you trying to like, what is the point of you bringing this up? Bringing it up in and of itself may be in fact neutral, but there's so many loaded things in these bullshit hypotheticals you keep delivering us. So I would love it if we could get down to what the actual point is, because I this isn't the interview Stacie and Arden show, so I don't need you to spend asking us tons of questions about what's going on. I want you to like actually make a case here.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought it was like a question show. So my thing though is just with the lust thing is what I'm figuring out, or what I'm trying to understand, is that I'm not talking about a passing thought. I was giving an example of like this guy is actively thinking. So a passing thought is not a problem, right? We all have passing thoughts, like you said. But I'm talking about like actively thinking about this woman every night before he goes to bed in lieu of his wife. And I'm wondering if he was to express that, let's just say hypothetically, would the lust be a problem? Will that lust be a problem in general? If he was to do that every night before he went to bed, would that be a problem?
This is where I can tell you're very much a Christian, or I'm sorry, I'm assuming you're a Christian. This
I
is
am
where I
like
can
super
tell.
Christian.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah.
because this is where the whole thought police comes into play. And then you saying, confessing it, or at least saying it out loud. There's no reason that you need to do that. That's where the church comes in and saying, like, you need to confess these things. You need to, I've lived that. I know what that's like. And it's so fucked up. As long as you're not acting on it, you don't need to go and express, hey, I'm thinking about your wife. That's going to make all parties uncomfortable. And in the outside world, in the secular world, like, to use your language, people don't do that. And if they do, they're probably in a relationship or in a state of a relationship where they're either knowing that that's okay and they'll maybe invite that person into that part of their relationship, because there are couples or people who can do that and it's totally normal. But if you're just saying to someone, I'm thinking about your wife all the time, and they're not into that, that's going to just make things super weird. But it sounds to me how the church has said, you need to talk about these, you need to confess these things. You don't need to do that. That's not how the world operates.
Okay.
And
so let's wipe confession off the table, and let's just say that every night before he went to bed, he's thought about this man's wife before he went to bed instead of with his wife. You wouldn't say that's a problem.
No, if you're just thinking about someone, who cares what is in your head? This is the problem, Matthew. Are you here to defend a position? Like, the title is, does God care about our purity culture? So are you here to defend that God cares about our purity culture? Because I'm done being interviewed.
Right, and this is why I'm talking about lust. This is why I'm talking about lust, because you guys are saying that lust is not a problem. This is part of the purity culture. From what I understand, is that lust is impure. Lusting after somebody is impure. You're saying that lust isn't a problem, correct?
Correct. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a thought.
So that's why I'm asking.
And this is where the thought police comes in from the church and having to police. Yes, but you also need to we understand the point you're making. I specifically understand the point that you're making because I lived this. I understand, and it is exhausting and it's draining, and it made me anxious, because just being a normal human being thinking someone else is attractive practically ruined my life at some point, because the church has it so ingrained in you. Yes, it is fucking horrible. So once I was out and realized, hey, I'm a normal person who can find people attractive and I don't have to act on it, is so freeing. And to live in that prison as a Christian, it is a good thing. And I didn't need to go and tell anyone, hey, I thought your husband's really cute. And I didn't have to fuck up relationships like that.
Yeah,
because I'm a normal human being.
But what I'm more talking about is
the scripture that was going through my head was, no, the scripture that it doesn't matter, because you're going to have fleeting thoughts, because you're a human. You can't control your thoughts. And the scriptures that they try to use is like, if you lust after someone, you're committing adultery. Okay, you're not committing adultery. And so that's what they use. And I feel like you're so hung up on that, and lust and the thoughts and the confessing. Okay, but even if it comes back again, who cares? Who cares? You're going to continuously having the same thought.
That's still not lust. Lust would be desiring. What I'm saying is this guy is desiring to be with his neighbor's wife. He's desiring, and every night, but in lieu of his wife, he desires to be with his neighbor's wife.
Who cares?
Is he acting on it? Is he acting on it?
No.
So
there's no
problem.
There's no problem. No.
You know what? Okay. I'll go even further, Matthew. It's not even not problematic. I hope that he busts a nut every single night by himself, thinking about how hot she is. I don't care. It's weird when you bring it up and make people uncomfortable, violate social norms, but I don't even know that at that point it would be unethical. I think that at that point your friends would be like, oh, we're not going to be friends with him anymore. He's fucking weird. But like,
why would it be weird?
It doesn't matter if you're horny for someone. Like, holy crap. I don't understand what the point is.
Why would it be weird?
This is
because people don't need to know every single thought you're having in your head. If you want to go bust a nut to someone, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so it's like any thought. It would be weird because it's just a thought. It's not weird because
it's just a thought.
After. Okay. Okay, so you don't
And
find somebody desiring somebody that is not their. If you were married, I guess,
no,
um, you wouldn't find somebody
you know
lusting
how
after another
freeing that
woman
is?
problematic.
No,
Okay.
no. And for so long, I did. And to no longer feel that way is so freeing because you're a fucking human and you're gonna feel that way.
Well,
Every person
what
you walk down the street, you're gonna
what?
find so many people attractive, and to be able to be like, "Oh, yeah, that person's really, really hot. Yeah, I think they're fucking hot." Okay, and you carry
Yeah.
on your day.
What you're
But
expressing. What you're expressing. I wouldn't say probably really hot, but what you're expressing is like I said, a fleeting thought, normal. What you were under, I don't know what that. I mean, I know what that was because I hear a lot of people confuse fleeting thoughts with lust. So, and I find that problematic.
I don't know.
Um,
Matthew, I genuinely can't see the difference between your proposal
mm,
of thinking about somebody every, is it frequency? That's the difference between
I
lust
think
well,
and
yeah,
so.
fleeting thoughts, as if
frequency and
it's,
acting on the thought.
what
Like
does acting on
acting,
it mean to you?
Yeah.
yeah. So you're not physically, but you're mentally entertaining that thought. That's that action. That's the action I'm talking about.
Okay, see, the difference is we no longer believe that we have someone another entity monitoring our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You do. And that's the
But do you
freeing
understand? You
part.
understand the difference that I'm expressing? The mental
I think it's
action
a
of actively.
difference. It's
Yep.
like a distinction without a difference. It's,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I get what
All right.
you where
Well.
you're coming from, and I'm so glad I'm no
Mhm.
longer there, and I really hope that eventually one day you can no
No,
longer
I was
be
not
there
where I'm
because
not where you were.
you don't
oh
well,
my God.
I
It's the
really
most,
don't think so because I really
Well,
think
where you were,
we're
you
at
were
least
saying a
side by
fleeting
side.
thought. That you were saying a fleeting thought is problematic, which it may be like disturbing to you, but it's not like you're doing anything wrong if you have a fleeting thought. I
the
think the
difference to
problem is
us
the
though,
acting.
Matthew, is that what you
Mhm.
think is acting on a thought, we think is a fleeting
Yeah.
thought. I don't care if you think about it
Interesting.
every night. It doesn't become
Mm.
suddenly a problem because you think of it more often. Like, and let's just talk about the benefits of masturbation. Like, it helps you sleep, it helps your mood, it can help with pain relief. I'm pretty sure there's even some
Yeah,
studies that show
I'm
that
not
it
really
can
talking
help with
about
the risk of
masturbation. I'm not really
cancer
talking about
in some
masturbation.
cases. So, like,
Yeah, well,
I,
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not.
care if
discouraged with that
you
too.
I don't care if you think about it every night and act on it physically. You didn't even say act on it physically when you said act on it. You just
Right.
said like entertain the thought more deeply.
Right.
I'll go beyond
Yeah.
that. You can physically touch yourself every night to that person. If you're not weird about it and bringing it to their face, then who
Telling them.
cares? Like,
Well, you okay? Someone wouldn't want to bring that to their spouse? Do you think they should keep that from their spouse as well?
what? That they're
I actually
masturbating to the thought of someone?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I don't think your spouse should care. And I think if your spouse does care what you think about when you masturbate, I mean, maybe there could be a situation where if their sexual needs, they feel like they're not being met, maybe that you guys need to go
Yeah.
to therapy together. That could be a whole separate problem. But when it comes to like, if you have deconstructed the sexual purity that religion instills in you and you don't shame yourself for masturbating, no, I don't think anyone should feel bad about masturbating to someone other than their partner. You can't control
Well, I
what's
think you
going
should.
on in your head.
I think you should deconstruct from the idea that a fleeting thought. I think it's Stacie.
Give me
I
one
did.
Um,
reason.
100% did.
Yeah.
That's what.
yeah,
Why do you think I'm
yeah,
here?
that's good because what you were saying that can be disturbing. I can see how that could be disturbing.
Yeah,
But
I know.
thinking
Thank
about
you for telling
actively
me.
thinking about somebody and lusting after them, I think is a little bit different. So a
I don't
lot
think you've
different
done any work
actually.
to show how that's different.
Yeah, I find it funny that you're telling
No,
me what to deconstruct when I'm on this side of the
I'm not telling
screen.
you to do
I
anything. I
have
just
done
think
the
that's good
work.
that you did.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what to Arden's point, the active difference is that a fleeting thought that you do not want versus a thought that you do want. That's the difference between lust is wanting, right? This guy is wanting another woman that is not his wife, and his wife not knowing. Let's say should he first of all you say he shouldn't keep it from his wife or his wife shouldn't mind, but I think the wife should mind or would mind at the very least would mind.
I maybe should is loaded there. I mean, like I'm not gonna say
Yeah,
what an individual should or should not
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
bothered by,
Fair enough.
but I think
Mm.
if you're
I've
bothered by your partner masturbating, I would think you have baggage that you need to work on and not your
mhm.
partner in that case.
And every
like,
That's weird to
relationship
me. Like,
is different.
even if it was to someone else that's not the spouse.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh, and I know we come from totally different worlds, so that's just absolutely weird to me. I'm sure that's normal to you, but it's just weird to me that that you would expect the spouse not to care about that.
I think you are engaging in excessive thought policing, and I think that's sad. I feel bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm totally fine, but I do understand
I don't
why
think so.
this idea of
No.
thought policing is a thing. It's unfortunate, I guess, for us as human beings if we want to do what we want to do, but there are certain mental activities that are not profitable.
They're not what? Profitable?
Profitable or good
I
or
mean,
that are
like
not
like
appropriate.
self-loathing, I agree, is not that's not
Yeah.
profitable. Talking down to yourself, that kind of thing, I agree. But as far as like
Or even
what I
hating somebody
imagine
else.
and what I mean, I can have anger towards other people, but as long as I
Yeah,
don't
anger is
dwell on
fine,
it.
but I mean like
But
hating somebody.
I don't think there's anything
depends
wrong
on
with
what they
hating
did.
people. Some
But
people
it
are
depends on what they did.
yeah, some people deserve hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
See,
what I mean by sorry, I guess I'm having a different mindset. What I mean by hating somebody is like kind of
You mean the
obsessing
religious
over
thing where it's like, oh,
their
it's equivalent to
destruction.
killing
you have
them.
to
Well, no,
forgive.
let me
Exactly.
explain what I
Again.
mean. Let me explain what I mean to make it clear. Obsessing over their destruction or obsessing over someone else's destruction, holding a grudge
Well,
is not good. It's not good, and you're not actively physically doing anything. But these are thought issues that cause issues.
I just I just disagree.
see,
I think if somebody is an abusive piece of
Okay.
shit, then for example, my grandfather is an abusive piece of shit. He suffered a stroke a few years ago, and he can't talk. He's in Canada alone in a hospital and can't talk. And while I would never wish that on him, I really don't
Yeah.
feel that bad because he was a terrible person, and honestly, I think he kind of got what was coming to him. But like,
Well, why would you never wish that on him?
well, because I mean,
he's
I'm
not a
not going to
horrible
actively
person.
wish for people to come to harm,
Yeah.
but he's
Why not?
directly harmed me and my father, and I am not going to sit here mourning the fact that he's
Yeah.
a vegetable in a hospital. Personally,
I can understand that, but why not actively wish on harm on somebody? What's wrong with that?
because I think that would violate principles of humanism. I don't want people to come to harm.
So these are
That doesn't
thoughts
mean you
that
have to
are
sit back
not,
and
like I
feel
said,
sorry for them.
that are negative thoughts that are problematic, I guess.
You're
I
very
miss
caught up on
part of that.
thoughts. You're very caught up
Yes,
on
this
just
is the
thoughts.
whole
And
purity culture. It has a lot to do with thoughts. You guys even mentioned lust, so this is important to talk about.
we didn't, I don't know if we mentioned lust. We were just saying how lust is
I
part
think you
of
guys
purity
brought up. I
culture.
think you brought up lust. Yeah, you brought up
Yeah,
lust.
and the fact that that is what's being used in purity culture to bring on purity culture and like not lusting after people, that is
Right.
language
This
used
is connected to
by
the
the church,
subject.
I also don't think lust is
not
real.
us. Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah.
Pardon?
I also don't think lust is real. Much like
You don't think lust is real?
no, it's much like your previous thing where it's
Oh.
a distinction without a difference. Like you're just
Yeah.
saying like it's bad, but only when I want it to be bad. That's the only way I can interpret that. I mean,
All right.
maybe you want to have a shot at giving us a better understanding of what you
Yeah,
mean by
sure.
lust. Maybe
All
you
right,
mean something
so-
totally different than every other Christian in the world, but I don't know.
Well, you said this about not wishing harm on your grandfather, right? Now, if a thought came that, oh man, this guy is so mean to me, and then man, if he fell in a ditch, I wouldn't care. You're like, oh no, I shouldn't think that. Versus like wishing death upon him. Would you say those two things are different?
Yeah.
Would you say that's even healthy for you?
I don't healthy is loaded. I don't know that I would consider it healthy or unhealthy. It's just a thought.
Or
Yeah. Again,
would
they're
you
just
say
thoughts.
that is all right? So self-loathing.
No one's
Stacie
acting on
mentioned
them.
self-loathing. Would you say self-loathing is healthy for you?
No, probably not.
No.
Right. So there are thought patterns that are not healthy for us, correct?
Thank you for the therapy session. What, like Arden said, this isn't the Let's Interview Stacie and Arden show. What is the point of, like, are you getting to the gist of your
Well,
call?
yeah, my point is
Um,
that you're saying that thought policing is a problem, and I'm saying thoughts need to be policed.
You're saying they
Okay.
need to be policed?
Well, I
Pardon?
will be grateful every day that the people who came to find America sought to find a country that divorces religion from government so that I don't have to be policed by people like you who have this like sick desire to police other people's thoughts.
Well, you can police your own thoughts, right? You don't have to. I don't have to
I
police your
don't
thoughts.
need
Just-
I
to.
don't.
Do you
Yeah,
not
no,
think
I'm
that your
I
good.
own-
don't. I'm really okay
Pardon?
with that. I did that for way too long, and it caused me way too much anxiety, and I'm done with policing my thoughts. Thank you very much.
So you don't police. So if you were self-loathing, you wouldn't police that thought.
No, we're not
No.
saying. Oh my
We're-
God.
Okay, the thoughts that you're talking about policing are ones that are normal. As far as just like self-hate, those types of thoughts, I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna think about that. But you're talking about ones
Mhm.
that are more in like a Christian sense where it's like completely normal things. You want to police things that are normal to just human nature.
So we've already
That's what
established
you're
that
talking
I
about
think what you
policing.
went through in fleeting thoughts are I think that
No,
even
no,
fleeting
actually, we
thoughts
didn't
have
establish that, Matthew. We didn't establish that. You asserted that, and
Okay,
we
well,
disagreed and said we didn't see a difference between what Stacie was talking about and what you're talking about.
okay. So this is my point. This is why I'm trying to meet you where you are, right? So we talked about self-loathing. If a thought comes and you look in the mirror, you say, "I hate my nose." Yeah, whatever. You just brush it off. Whatever. I don't care. I like my nose. Or you say, "Oh, I'm a horrible person. I'm ugly. All this stuff. I hate my nose. I'm so stupid. What do I even have?" Like, wouldn't those two things be different?
Sure, one's probably going to
Right.
have a deeper effect on your mental health, but we're talking about things that like you're
Yeah.
comparing something where we know this has a negative impact on your mental health. We know this can lead to bad
Yeah.
outcomes to something where it's like, "Oh, I think my friend's wife is hot." Those are not the same. They're not even on the same fucking ballpark.
Okay. So now you have two different experiences, right? Someone says they think their neighbor's wife is hot. That's a fleeting thought. They say, "Oh no, I don't even want to think that. Even if she is attractive, I don't want to think that thought," and they move on. Versus
And
thinking about them every night before they go to bed. Wouldn't those two things be different, or they're the same?
Substantively, they're different, but on their impact, I
Mhm.
think they're almost identical.
hmm
Okay. So you think the self-loathing thing would have an impact, but the desiring someone else's wife wouldn't have an impact.
Again, I think it's a natural thought to be attracted to people in general, and that's
I
the
agree.
point I'm trying to. That's the point I'm trying to make is the thought policing that the church tries to impose is trying to get
Mhm.
you to not feel okay about natural things that just come across your day-to-day life. That's the thought
Yeah,
policing.
no, and I know
that
there are
they-
churches that do that. Probably a majority of them that do that. I don't think
Sounds
that's
like
It
yours
healthy.
sounds like
does it.
you're a
Um,
part of one.
Yeah,
Well, maybe, but I don't think that's healthy. So if I
I
was to
agree.
find
It's
them, they
not.
were saying that. I challenge the church just as much as I challenge you guys. So it's not like I'm an equal opportunity challenger. Um, so
Challenge
I think
yourself too.
that, and I challenge myself a lot too. Exactly. I police my thoughts. So
Yeah.
so the
That's
thing is, when
okay.
Bro.
when we have, pardon?
I'm losing the plot here, Matthew. I
Yeah.
don't really feel
Yeah.
like you still haven't really made me feel like you're actually trying to get to a point or like you're trying to defend a
Mhm.
Yeah,
position. It just feels like you're trying to
is
get
there
us to
are-
agree.
there
It
are
feels like
thoughts.
you're trying to get us to agree to your perception of what counts as a thought crime, and I don't feel like you've made a very compelling case. So I don't know if you want to give it one more shot before we let you go, but I really think we should start to put a
Well,
bow
I'll
on
just
this.
finish off and say my point is that there are certain thoughts that are problematic, and I think you guys established that as well. And I'm fine with where we left off and what we accomplished in this conversation.
Okay. All right. You have a good night, Matthew.
All right.
Bye.
Good night. Bye bye.
Did we accomplish anything?
What a wild dive back into the
Oh my
hosting
God.
game. I feel like I need a drink.
I am so glad that I don't live by that anymore because I once did and it was fucking exhausting and it was not fun. And like I really did. I policed my thoughts. I felt like normal things I was abnormal because that's what I was taught.
Mhm.
And I'm just so glad I don't have to think like that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Like, obviously there are times where you have thoughts that can lead to bad outcomes in the real world, and like that should
Sure.
be something you should maybe consider before it impacts you or others, not allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
But if you are just having a thought, it is genuinely so fine.
Yeah.
I think it's really sad because I think people already struggle so much with shaming themselves for the thoughts that they do have, and like I think
Mhm.
it's really important to know that if you are having sexual, lustful thoughts, that there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Even
No.
if it is your friend's wife, or even if it is like a, something that a theme, perhaps. I'm trying to think of how to say what I want to say without saying the exact words because YouTube algorithm and stuff. As Esther Perel says it in one of her books, she talks
There you
about
go.
how this woman had a consensual non-consent fantasy, right? Where
Mhm.
like these farmers on her land would like
Right.
ravish her or whatever.
Mhm.
She felt really bad because she, it stands against violating someone's consent. And I love
Yeah.
Esther Perel was like, but you are casting all the people. You're deciding what they do. You're deciding how long it lasts, when it ends, what the aftercare looks like, who the people look like. Every bit of it in your head is consensual. And so
Yeah.
there's literally nothing that you need to judge yourself or hurt yourself over.
Yeah. Exactly. Ugh.
Oh, I said I need a drink and Matt brought me a glass of wine. Thank you. I love you.
Oh my God. What a good guy.
He is a good
A
guy.
really good guy.
Okay, we have still some open lines. So if anyone wants to call in, 720-619-2288. That is your number to call in. But until then, we have Lane, pronouns are she, they in New York. I don't even know if I can read out this note, so I'm just going to bring Lane in and have them detail Lane, lay it on us. What do we need to know? What's going on? Hello, are you there?
Their phone fall asleep.
Sounds like not. So I'm going to return Lane to the queue.
Okay.
We don't actually have another caller quite yet. So Phoebe, if you are listening and you want to check Lane's audio, so that way we can make sure that we get them on and we can hear what they have to say, because I'm going to read out their note. It says, Jehovah is the ultimate destroyer and thief of romantic love, a reference to Matthew 22:30, which is like a whole lot. And I don't really know where to even begin on that. So I really was kind of looking forward to hearing what they had to say.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Matthew 22:30. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, I had it pulled up on the side as well. But
Oh, did you?
There was like quite a few verses before and after, and I was like, I don't have time to get all that context right now. So, but definitely ready for you to get on that too. Yeah, I think it's really sad. With Matthew, like, it's strange that this kind of reminds me of when we're talking about faith, and they say, oh well, you also have faith in science and faith that your chair is not going to collapse, and it's like, well, if you mean faith colloquially, sure, but you're clearly trying to do this, conflation between two different concepts that have similar meaning but are different and distinct in important ways. Yeah. And it's like, well, you object to some things that people do, so you also are into purity culture, and it's like those are not the same. To what extent there may be overlap, it's very silly to try to pretend that they're the exact same. And yeah, I also feel like that seems so obvious to me. I think you must know that, but I guess Matthew likes to have a hobby of calling in and trying to brawl with some atheists, which is what the show is for. So, I can't be too mad.
I'm like, as we were talking, I have definitely heard him before, and he's exhausting.
Yeah, well, he's been on quite a few shows. I don't want to harp on him because usually Matthew is very good faith, even if I find him very frustrating. So
yeah, I mean, he wasn't rude. It was just
no.
Yeah.
He's never been like explicitly rude, but yeah, I definitely we have some very strong disagreements, I'll say.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Let me try to pull Lane in real quick again and see if maybe she's figured out. Lane, are you there? Can you hear me? If you're on the web caller, which it looks like you are, and you're on your phone, try pulling your phone away from you and tap it for a second and then put it back up to your ear. See if that gives us your audio. Nope, I'm not hearing anything. No. There must be something wrong. Lane, you might want to try hanging up and calling back, because there's something wrong with your audio. I don't know if maybe it's timed out or your browser has switched to different like microphone. Okay, Lane dropped, so she can hear
Okay.
us. Hopefully, we'll
Oh,
get back in. Yeah, we've got 2 callers being ready to be screened, and then hopefully Lane will get back in
perfect.
quickly. If I see
Perfect.
them in the queue, I will just like snag them up in here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
well, I mean, you should tell us more about Bajakan. I know we talked a lot about it before the show, but
Yeah,
I
we
think
did.
it's
I know.
interesting to people, you know? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, it was like it was like a family reunion.
mm,
I think the best part is just finally meeting people that you have known for so many years. For
mm,
me, not as many years, but it's been like two and
oh
a half.
God.
No,
I don't know
timer.
why that happened. I'm sorry.
Um, that's okay. But just everyone's so happy, everyone's so excited to see everyone. And even though like the speakers were obviously the speakers and you're so excited to meet them, they spent so much time with everyone. It's not like they just spoke and then left. It was like they were just excited to get to know the attendees and spend time. And we finished off the weekend with a boat cruise, and it was 3 hours, the boat cruise, just like Gilligan's Island, a 3-hour tour. Um, and it was like when everyone just really let loose and you were getting those last minute photos and those last minute conversations. And I didn't realize that all the speakers were there until we got like a group photo of them. And it was just, everyone was just so happy. And Godless Engineer, John Gleason, I was sitting at a table with some people that I had just, you know, visited with, some ladies, and the Apostate Sisters. I don't know if anyone's familiar with them, but they are so sweet. You should follow them on YouTube. They're just amazing. So I was sitting with them chatting, and John comes over and he's like, "Stacie, we're going to get a picture of everyone who's been on the line. So come on up to the top deck." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I
Oh.
went upstairs, and there was like me and Seth and Forrest and Joshua Bowen and John and Phil Thompson as well. And I don't want to make sure I'm not forgetting anyone, but I was just like blown away that I got to be included in this amazing photo. And I was like, "Thanks for inviting me." And he's like, "Of course, you've been on." So um, yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And the organizer of Bajakan, Bob Barnes, he really wants it to have that family feel. So everyone like is just
Mhm.
involved with all the events and the dinners and the after parties, and you really feel like you've spent time with everyone. So it was it was amazing. So, and there's
Well,
nothing like coming down. Oh, sorry. What were you
no,
gonna
no,
say?
no, no. Finish.
I was just gonna say, there's nothing like coming down the first morning, just asking something at the front desk, and you're like something about your room, and you turn around and oh, there's Dr. Josh. Like, hey, that was our first time meeting. So it was
No,
pretty awesome.
that is so cool, and I hope you know that I'm gonna like
Yeah.
hereby decree that if people are doing a line photo thing, you don't have to be invited. You can butt your way
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
in.
It was really cool. So yeah, it was really
You can
awesome.
shut up and be like, Arden literally told me I'm allowed to, so
Yes.
I don't need
Yes.
your agreement.
No, exactly. It was just really fun. The whole thing
So
was
we do have 2
amazing.
atheist
Okay,
callers. Oh no, what were you
perfect.
gonna say before?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Well, let's bring in Jay from Texas. Pronouns are he, him,
Yep.
as I wrap up his little banner. Wants to discuss studies on promiscuity related to overconsumption of pornography and the higher body count a woman has, meaning a woman will be more insidious. It's really interesting. So,
Okay.
Jay, you are live on the line. Bring it to
Hello,
us. What's going
everyone,
on?
and chat. I love it. Oh, I've been listening to the line for about maybe 4 weeks now. Love you guys. The chat probably hates me, but I'm sort of coming to open my mind. I grew up very theist, not so much these days. In fact, not at all. And just trying to correct some things that need correcting, and then figuring out, well, maybe they did get this right. And I've been pointed, obviously, in the direction of, well, pornography is really bad. It can, studies show it rewires your brain. And then I've also been shown studies that a higher a woman, or it's not just women exclusively, but in general, the higher the body count, the correlation is, well, the more likely they are to cheat on you. And I've researched the studies, but at the same time, I mean, I get that some studies can be a little biased, depending on who's conducting it. So, I mean, I kind of wanted to pick y'all's brains. Do you think there's validity in these studies, or are there any objections that you may or may not have?
Well, so off the top of my head, I don't know the studies you're referring to. I've heard like the sort of misogynist influencer channels vaguely reference things like high body count means that a woman's gonna take advantage of you or something, whatever. But I haven't seen any actual defense of those positions. I've just seen the assertions. I know pornography, much like video games and other things that, work on our pleasure centers, is always going to have negative and positive effects, right? Like, there are problems with the porn industry that definitely should be addressed. And it does rewire your brain to a certain extent to have certain expectations, but that's not always the case for everyone. And there are even some studies that I'm pretty sure that show that watching pornography, like with a partner and things, can have positive effects. So I think it's just kind of myopic when we say, like, oh, porn bad. Video games bad. Oh, junk food bad. Women sleeping around bad. Like, could there be negative effects to some of these things? Maybe, but is it the only effect that we're seeing? Or, maybe is the negative effect on the marriages that men are maintaining, and maybe those women are actually happier? Like, I think there's multi-layered things here, and I would need to see the studies you're referring to and get like sort of a more well-rounded picture of the whole situation. Stacie, do you have thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think you can probably find studies saying both things, good or bad. Like, there's probably positives to porn by yourself or in relationships. I haven't looked at any of these studies. I don't know. I didn't watch porn ever in my life, and people didn't believe me. But I don't know why. I was raised as a very fundamentalist Christian that was told, don't let it into your life because you're going to get addicted. It's going to let Satan in. So I just stayed away from it because I was terrified. I didn't actually look at porn for the very first time until like a year and a half ago, because I was like, well, who the fuck cares? I want to take a look and see what all the taboo is about this. I did. I was like, cool, this is really interesting. Do I need to watch it all the time? It's really not something that I do. And I was like, glad that I finally saw it. And if I want to watch it again, great. But it's not anything that's something that I need to partake in all the time. But I think it's like, if you like to watch it, go for it. So I don't know about the whole rewiring of the brain type thing. And like Arden just said, saying like video games bad, junk food bad. I think anything within moderation, and you know your boundaries, you know what's healthy for you. If you're staying home all day watching porn, well, that's not good. Same as like if you're staying home playing video games all day, that's not good. But if it's something that you just want to do at the end of the day, you want to relax, you want to just watch some porn and masturbate before bed, then that's up to you. That's your time. And I don't think you can fault anyone for that. So, but yeah, I mean, I've heard Dr. Dale Ray give a lot of really good talks about porn, and that's helped me look at it from a whole different perspective. So I would actually recommend looking on YouTube some of his talks about like God and sex, and just look up Dr. Dale Ray and sex, because he's actually changed my perspective a lot on porn and helped me deconstruct that whole idea in a very healthy way. So, and he's very knowledgeable on just sex in general. So I would go to him.
Yeah, no, I definitely will. I tend to kind of agree with moderation for sure. Ironically, that's sort of like one of the cliches in the churches that I went to. Moderation in all things, just not when it comes to pornography. I
They
guess.
don't believe
But
that. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, go ahead. Oh, okay. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I was just
I thought you were gonna
interjecting,
say
but then there's
something.
the delay. No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I was just saying I tend to agree with what y'all put about moderation. Sort of like with alcohol, and I'm not comparing like how they affect, but the addiction aspect of it. Alcohol doesn't really do much for me. It's not very addictive for me per se. For my brother, he can't, like he can't go to sleep unless he has his drink. It affects him in his daily life, so he has to try and avoid it. With me, I can have it, and then the next day I just don't feel the best, and I'm like, I don't want to do it for a few months. So I guess it really does depend on how it works in your life, or how it affects
That's
you in
true.
your life. If it keeps you out of doing your daily activities, I think that's clinically an issue there. A side question, and next time I call in, I'll have those studies. I apologize.
Nice.
I sort of thought it was. I could have sworn I thought it was one of them was discussed.
Probably.
I don't know. I'll get it next time.
I'm willing to bet Alyssa knows about these specific studies because this is like
Yeah,
her actual field
with
of
Alyssa.
expertise. Whereas, I mean, I was in the adult industry and I know psychology, but those specific studies haven't landed in front of me. So,
Gotcha.
And I
Okay,
just
yeah.
lived through purity culture. That's my expertise in this. Is
Yeah.
I signed a purity pledge at like 13, and that really just fucked me up. So now I'm living to talk
Same
about it,
here.
and yeah.
No, I mean, I remember thinking I was the Antichrist for masturbating. I was like, I could never, confess this, because in the religion I grew up, you had to confess that you couldn't just pray directly to God and ask for forgiveness for that type of sin. Other sin, you could do in your daily prayer. You're speeding in your car, it's no big deal. But yeah, it definitely affected me, and it's sort of like I'm trying to rewire my brain actually with that.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I know it's not wrong to do some of the activities I like to do as an adult, but it's hard to not feel like you're doing something wrong because of all that negative conditioning. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's still stuck in your
so,
body. It'll take time for it to get worked out. I don't know how long did you say you have no longer been a Christian for, or
about 10 years at least.
okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a minute, but
Some
yet
things
it was my whole identity. So when I left, it wasn't easy. And I still sort of think like one, not intentionally, but just, I mean, hard to really separate, you know, yourself too much, culture-wise.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I understand. I do get that. There's some things that it's hardwired in because it was a part of your thinking for so long. I mean, a lot of us talk about how it's so instinctive to go back to just being like, oh, I'm going to pray about this, and it's like, wait, hold on, I don't need to pray about that. There's certain things that you just fall back on, and I think the sex issue is definitely one that is a hard one to let go of because they start pushing that at such a young age. Soon as you start
Oh, yeah.
realizing, hey, I have hormones. So, yeah, it does take time, and yeah, I think we get it. That's why this show
Yep.
exists. Yeah.
Yep, and I appreciate
So.
y'all talking with me. I would love to keep going and talk about other things on my mind, but I've waited on the call for you guys. I want to extend that olive branch to everyone else waiting. So thank you both for talking
Thanks,
with me.
Jay. Call back next week
Thanks
when
for
Alyssa's here.
calling.
I think she'll have probably a lot more valuable thoughts to give you, specifically on the stuff you mentioned. So definitely call back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll do.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jay. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Y'all too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was really pleasant. Such a gear
That
shift.
was.
I was like,
I liked.
Oh, okay.
That was good.
Alrighty. We have a bunch of callers on the line, but Lane is back and I want to get her
Perfect.
on. So Lane, pronouns are she and they in New York. Hopefully. Lane, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me? Arden.
Yes,
Stacie.
we got you.
Yay.
All right.
Hey! Oh, I want to say Phoebe was my call screener, and I can't wait to see more of her on the line. So we got to get her on one of your shows soon.
Alrighty. What's going on?
So Jehovah, the ultimate destroyer and thief of romantic love. Matthew, where Jesus says, "She shall be like the angels in heaven who are neither married nor given in marriage in the resurrection." So why, and he's talking about the woman when the Pharisees came and asked him about this woman who married this guy, and he died, and then she married his other 7 brothers or 6 brothers, and they all died. And the Pharisees said, which one of these guys will she be married to in the resurrection? And he replied, none of them. She'll be like the angels who aren't married nor given in marriage.
Okay.
And this is the right wingers kind of use the LGBTQ plus our level of morality, and I think our morals are higher than theirs because we're trying to broaden people's rights. We're trying to raise awareness. We're trying to bring rights to our community where we did not have them before. Right wingers are trying to take them away from us. And, here we have Jesus, who is supposed to be God's ultimate expression of love, revealing in the scriptures that God is going to destroy marriage and he's going to take away our right to have a romantic partner or a partner.
I don't think. Listen, I haven't read the whole verse nor the chapter in context to understand what's going on, but I don't think that's what's being said.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling to find the point, Lane. What?
Yeah.
Well, the point,
what is this call about?
I know this is an atheist-based show, right? And I'm not. So I understand God to be a concept. And I know that it's probably more rational to say that God doesn't exist than to say it's rational to say that he does. But God is a concept, and a very powerful concept. And this concept has led to things like the Crusades, where men and women and children were slaughtered all in his name. And many religions...
So Lane, I'm going to interrupt because you're not really getting to the point. So I need you to get to the point for me because I'm not following and I don't really see what you're trying to get at here.
The point is, I think this passage is saying that in heaven, our right to be married, if there is a heaven, our right to be married there and to be with our spouse or spouses will be taken from us. And if there is a heaven, if we are allowed there,
I don't think you have a right to anything in heaven, Lane. I don't think rights.
I don't think it's about a right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I when I was a Christian, I understood it just like once you're in heaven, there was no marriage. Like it was just there was nothing about rights to being married. It was just there was no marriage. There was no engaging in any kind of like sexual activity. There wasn't a need for that. We were not having children. It was that part was finished. So I don't think it's about like having marital rights in heaven. It was just there's no such thing as marriage in heaven.
Right.
So I don't think it
maybe
really
part of the reason for the call and I was going to talk about the concept of soul ties, and then at the last minute I changed my idea and went with this idea.
Yeah,
Soul ties are
Lane,
a whole
like,
other bag of.
so
I know, but I go through a level. I've gone through this for years now, of a level of where I've been in this certain state of cognitive dissonance, and I have been flip flopping back and forth between atheism and total and belief. But at the
Okay.
same time, I'm an anti-theist. At the same
Okay.
time, when I'm
So-
an atheist,
no,
still an anti-theist.
Lane, I'm gonna stop you. So I just sussed out, I think you've been a caller before, haven't you, Lane?
Yeah.
Do you change your name? Is your anonymous quite a lot?
Well, I was sexually assaulted by my father, and
Okay, no, I'm gonna drop you. That was so not necessary. Yeah, Lane, you were banned from the show because you regularly call in and do these time-wasting diatribes to get to no point. So you're banned. Go away. Don't call back to this show or any of the shows on the line.
That's weird.
It's so disgusting to just you can't just answer a question. You have to go on the nope. Okay. Moving on. All right, we have 4 other callers on the line. I'm probably going to close the lines because I'm realizing it's over an hour in, and it'll probably take a while to get through 4 callers. So no new callers will get in tonight. But if you're on the line, please hang on. We're going to try to get to all of you. So unless Stacie, do you have like a hard stop time? I didn't ask.
Nope. No,
Okay.
I don't. I never do
cool.
when I'm here.
Well, we will do our best to get to all of you. So first, we're just going to take y'all. I don't think I see any theists, so I think we're just going to take y'all in the order that you've come in. We will talk to Dude in California. Dude wants to talk about the toxicity of Joe Rogan. So, Dude, you are live. Go for it.
Hi, hello again. It's nice to call in again, and a bit of it is like a general thank you to this channel because I had to recently deal with like a Joe Rogan stan to a degree because I'm a machinist and I walked in the inspection room and I catch the guys talking about the boxer that is a woman who's a man, and they, a man beat up a woman in boxing or in the Olympics, of course, and it was this kind of thing. It just like genuinely set me off. Like I tried my hardest to calmly just talk about everything I've learned from this network. He did use all those Joe Rogan talking points of like, oh, I'm a man, I can naturally beat up a woman even if she's my same weight. And I'm like, well, I guess kind of sometimes, but if especially not if she's got training. And he's like, oh no, I just because I'm a man, it doesn't matter if she has boxing training, I could probably brute force my way. And it was very frustrating, and I did my best, but I guess I'm sorry, I'm stumbling for my full-on question because I want it to be relevant and in a joking manner. I want praise for being a good ally, but it's I guess that really is the gist of it. Maybe that it was I guess extra infuriating for me because my own wife isn't the most delicate, dainty, feminine thing ever, but I love her for that, and like it is extra triggering. We're about to have our own kid, and we don't care. We haven't learned the sex. I don't care the gender. Like I just want us to be human. So that's why
the odds
I've
are
been
pretty good
telling
on that
people
one.
a lot.
Yeah.
When people ask, like, do you know the gender? And like no, I just hope it's human. So
it's better than one of the aliens from Aliens.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, when dealing with people like this, I just find it funny that when they all thought she was a man, they were outraged. They wanted her, like, banned or to have this, like, match struck from the competition and to, have this whole, like, cultural shift, attacking this poor woman. And then when they found out she was cis, it was like, oh, okay, then it's fine. then she earned her gold. Then it's totally okay, right? And it's like, what if she was a trans woman who went through all the necessary steps to, as the IOC put it, to qualify under their guidelines, and she won? Like, these people want a world where they don't want to say, well, in many cases, some people will just say banning trans women altogether is the right solution, but a lot of them will say, well, no, banning people, a whole group, isn't the solution, is usually what I've found. And yet, the only really acceptable appearance of trans people in sports to them is if we lose, if we're on the bottom, if we are as unsuccessful as possible while being visible. And I just think that's really telling that, their real motivation isn't fairness. The real motivation isn't the outcome of this match or what, advantages that Imran Khalif ostensibly has. It's, I don't want trans people to be visible in a place that I enjoy watching. Like, that's really the sum of the complaint, right? I mean, that's not the words they're saying, but I think you can kind of suss out that that's what it seems like the implication of what they're saying is. So, it's... No, go ahead.
I did my best to also still kind of offer solutions and find this common ground. That wrestling specifically has weight classes. Like, maybe we can kind of do hormone level classes. And, I did, thanks to Force Valakai too, I did my best to understand and explain, enough of these people with a vagina have more testosterone than you and I. And, I was talking to a third guy in the room, and that's very possible. And I think, you can have, and then those people with a vagina have high estrogen, and I think that somehow boosts their testosterone, and that's why you get these crazy sometimes things that happen in biology. And I tried to really shut down that biology dog whistle from the Joe Rogan stan of it's natural, this is not natural biology, and you go back to cavemen and there was the men hunting, and I'm like, I didn't really get into we probably had the entire tribe of men and women hunting a woolly mammoth. It probably took indigenous Americans they also had equal women, men rites of passage. You can't cherry pick the parts of history and different cultures to fit your narrative. And I did say I guess I get real triggered by, when people who barely pass high school biology throw out biological facts, and I left the room. So, I discovered a good comedian, Steve Hofstetter, I think, and he's got a joke of oh, the founding fathers, let's go back to their time where they wear wigs and high heels and dresses. It was RuPaul Revere. It's
nice.
The gender norms have changed. So, if you haven't heard of him, he's a good pro-trans comedian that I've discovered recently. But
I don't know that I've heard of him, but I think these people are just engaging in gender essentialism, right? I mean, Richard Dawkins, Haven't Meta actually wrote a great article about Richard Dawkins' take on this and how it also spiraled into him lying about his Facebook page being banned because of a tweet he made, which doesn't make any sense because Facebook is not going to police your tweets.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, even Richard Dawkins gets this remarkably wrong all the time. It's this biological essentialism thing, and they'll often appeal to, well, maybe she is intersex, but that doesn't break the gender binary because it's an exception. And it's yes, but we're talking about the edge cases. That's what we're talking about on trans stuff. We're talking about the people who we're not sure if they fit or not. So the edge cases are extremely relevant when we're trying to figure out exactly where the line gets drawn. And and it's also worth mentioning, I think we already touched on this, but I'm now halfway through a glass of wine, so my memory is fading me quickly. We don't know anything about Iman Khalif's chromosomes or her hormone levels. We know that, I think what I heard, and actually, I'm not going to repeat this because I'm not 100% confident that I actually know this is a good thing. But the point is, there was one source that made a claim about her being banned for failing a gender test, but all it was her failing a gender test was what was said. So we don't know if it had to do with chromosomes or hormones or any other number of things that could have been relevant to that individual league's rules. Or if it even, like, I don't know that I've seen that it actually was a thing that happened. She talked about training in Italy against that same opponent, like, many times growing up. This is really just a spiral out of, like, right-wing, what do you call it? Culture war nonsense. And it's exhausting and frustrating. I think if you have the energy to take them on, go for it. But I also don't blame people for being like, fuck that. I'm so not. Like, let them feel like the weird fringes of society that they are, you know?
Right. That's the thing. Like, I felt like ironically happy afterwards, because that was like truly the first time I could like stand up for myself and for anything like that, because I have been the shy, like, oh yeah, okay, well, there's this one thing, and just leave it, I definitely brought up like, oh, these, of course Republicans like suddenly care about women's sports when they, never did before. And, it explaining like, oh, it's perfectly possible to have like a functioning penis, but you have that tiny part that says grow a penis, of Y attached to an XX, and vice versa, things where the X was the only thing that activated, but your Y chromosome didn't work. And, just, again, it's sort of maybe made a dent. And so, I'm hopeful for that. And sorry I didn't really stay in line with purity culture, but I certainly don't accept that either.
I appreciate it, dude. I know some people be like, oh, if you aren't cis or trans, or if you aren't trans, don't talk on these issues, or if you don't have a uterus, don't talk on abortion. But I am very much of the position that we need allies who are, I mean, I'm assuming you're cis. I guess I don't know that for sure, but we need cis and straight allies.
The same dude that.
Yeah.
I was just saying, this is the same dude that talked to you about Ace Ventura a little bit, and if you allow me at the end, I can one sentence about that. But Bill, go ahead. It was just like, I can relate. I was able to, after the call, like, relate to you and the whole saying a little better, because I realized, like, yeah, technically I was triggered by the notion. This, again, my interpretation is much like someone who believes in God would be a theist. I was thinking, if something is transphobic, everyone who likes it is like automatically transphobic. And maybe that's a false equivalency. That part I just think doesn't matter. It was just, that's where I was coming from. And I was like triggered by like how much I was bullied as a kid. Thankfully that ended at high school. I know I still didn't have it as bad as someone like you. But that was where I was like, hey, this other thing, but like, I was able to still see your side of it much better. Technically, anyone who's ever maybe triggered by their like a abusive father, it's like, I would never expect them to love The Simpsons. I love The Simpsons, but Homer strangling Bart, like, I get it. There's those things that are woven throughout pop culture that it, you don't have to love it. You don't have to hate those who like it. So I really appreciated your insight and help with those concepts.
I'm so glad. It's such a, I'm very, it's hard because I'm very much like, I want to be able to call people out, right? But I also don't want people to get locked into thinking, oh, well, they're calling me a transphobe, so they just think I've sinned against the trans religion, and now I'm an apostate, and I'm just bad. I'm marked as bad. Red letter A across my chest. And it's like, no, we can talk about like the ways that white people engage in racism without necessarily being like actively racist people. And in the same way, we can talk about the way that like transphobia infects like every part of our culture, and we all carry transphobic beliefs, even trans people. I would defend that. Like, I think even trans people will like have bad thoughts about themselves or others sometimes that are like rooted in transphobia. And this is just, it's because of the culture we grew up in, and it's no one's fault per se, but it is your fault if when you're called on it, you're like, no, actually, I'm not the problem. You're the problem for pointing out my problem. And it's like, you just got to be willing to like be introspective about it and be wrong and, you know, have empathy towards the experiences of other people. But
yeah, I would always absolutely agree that Ace Ventura was trans problematic. I don't want to like imply that I still disagree with you.
Sure.
So yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I guess that's good enough for tonight. Thank you very much again, and you have a wonderful day or
Thanks,
evening.
dude.
I guess you're in Texas, so.
Yeah, it's evening. But anyway, see you
Dude.
later.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Sorry, I kind of steamrolled that one.
No,
Figured
that's
it was-
fine. I was like, I don't really know what to say in this, so that was totally fine.
Sure. I was like, it's like we were having like a Takis call, so I was just kind of like, let me Takis this one up so we can get onto a caller
Yeah.
for both of us. Speaking of which, we've got Mickey, pronouns are he, him in Arizona, wants to talk about the ethics of purity culture as a euphemism to lockpicking, which I don't know if I
Oh,
completely follow. So
okay.
Mickey, let us in. What do you
Hey,
mean?
how we doing?
Doing
Okay,
good.
so purity culture I see as sort of an idea of once you open that box, you can't put it away.
Mm.
And I'm sort of I'm a lock sport, a lock jockey, whatever you want to call it. I pick locks for fun,
Okay.
but I don't pick locks that aren't mine. And I think a lot of times people think that once you open that box of sexuality, that you're, once again, to use your guys' show name, chewed gum. And pardon me, the callers have been all over the place, the show, and it's been really hard to keep my thoughts in line. Oh my God, Matthew, what was that? Okay, sorry.
It's all good.
And
That's
I
okay.
know there's a delay. Okay. But me and my wife have been all over the place. And I don't
Okay.
think we've lost a step. I think the idea of purity culture is absolute bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you don't know about sex, you can't figure out if you're sexually compatible.
Mhm.
And I know you guys touched on this.
Sorry, without or with?
Without having sex first before you
Oh, okay, yeah.
lock that person in. I
Okay.
think, try before you buy. There's a reason there are test drives. It's really important to understand what you like, and what your partner likes.
Mhm.
Like what toys you might like. And sorry, I was so angry that almost nobody on purity culture, and that was the theme of the show. So I'm driving right down it.
No, you're good. I mean, I think
I
the show is, you know, the title was about purity culture, but the show
Yeah.
is broadly about like women's issues in general, right? Like feminism and purity culture and
Right.
like misogyny and patriarchy. So, yeah, I mean, but I appreciate it. Anyway, go on.
Thank you. I think it's so important when you're with a new partner that you figure out if you're sexually compatible. And there's no way to do that if you're keeping your V card or your purity ring. This doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, Stacie, you got thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, that's definitely what the church wants you to do. They, like we were saying to the first caller, if you go outside of marriage, you're kind of marked as unclean or impure, hence the name of the show, you're chewed gum, who's going to want you? You're supposed to save yourself. So it's kind of hard to do any test driving when you have that hanging over your head to not do any of that. A lot of people save their first kiss to their wedding day. So in a religious world, it's really difficult. And if you do even try to like sneak around and kind of like, cross any kind of boundaries without necessarily like having even like just say like intercourse, you have a lot of guilt for that for some people. So it's hard to do any of that when you're in purity culture. So that's
I
why
know.
deconstruct. Yeah. So it's easy to say, yeah, you got a test drive, but then once you're in it and you get married, and then if you don't have that compatibility, you're kind of locked in. And then divorce is a sin,
I'm not
but
saying
sex is a
that.
sin outside of marriage. So the whole thing is like the whole system is rigged into control, and
Agreed.
then yeah. So it's super fucked up. And
Agreed.
yeah, so we're on the same page. There's no disagreement here. No source of contention, and I don't disagree with you at all. But you're not going to find a lot of people who are going to go out there willingly test driving outside of marriage when they're already believing that if they do, they're sinning and going to go to hell, because it's baked
I'm an
into
atheist, by the way.
Yeah. Were you always an atheist?
I was raised Jewish, but
Okay.
I've more or less been an atheist or an agnostic for most of my life.
Sure. I will say, I think,
And I came.
or sorry, I was just gonna say, I think maybe there could be some people who are so good at communicating that they could be like, hey, I'm not ready yet, but here are the things that I like and want, and maybe for the right person that could work out. I think it's really unlikely, and I would definitely advise that people like explore sexual compatibility before legally binding yourself to another human being.
Yeah.
But just to be like fair to like the whole there's probably someone out there who could do that. That's all I'm saying. Anyway.
I kissed. What I did was I kissed. I was like, I am not going to be someone who saves my kiss to my wedding day. I need to kiss. If we can't have compatibility with kissing, then there's no way you're going to be able to have compatibility.
Kissing's a good indicator.
So I was like, yeah. And I kissed some very lousy kissers, and I broke up with them because I'm like, if you're not going to be good at that, I don't trust you to be good at anything else. So
I like that.
I have to disagree with you there. Because I think there's an open line of communication you can have. Like, I dated a girl who liked to bite my lip, and I didn't like it. And I told her, I don't like you biting my lip. And then we were able to have, maybe that's her thing, and maybe it's a once in a while thing, but I think there was some communication that could be done. And I think sex is the same way.
Yeah, I think I largely agree. I will say, I think maybe, and Stacie, maybe correct me if I'm not representing your point fairly, but I think the notion is like, maybe if like biting your lip is like a really big thing for her and you don't like it, that sure, you can communicate and be like, hey, I don't like that. And she can be like, okay, but maybe the point is like, maybe that's a sign that you're not compatible because maybe she really likes to bite lips and maybe she needs to go find someone who's into it when she bites their lip. You know what I mean? Where like, maybe that's an indicator that there's some sort of misalignment and compatibility there.
Yeah.
There's some things that you can...
Not good kissing in general. I just meant like just not good kissing, period. It wasn't just like little things like, oh, I actually don't really like that. It was just like, okay, no, you don't really know how to do this, that kind of thing. So, in my opinion. Yeah.
So, and once again, without any details about that, I don't know if I could respond, but I think more or less, I think communication is really the key. And part of that is a breakdown that happens in purity. Like, you can't have the conversation before you know what you like. And before you know what you like, you can't have the conversation if you're wearing a ring that says, I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
Yeah. For sure. I don't
Anyway.
disagree with that. Yeah. I mean, I think generally speaking, I mean, this is kind of the point we were getting to with Matthew in the first caller, right?
Mhm.
That like having sexual thoughts and maybe even engaging with those sexual thoughts, either with a person or by yourself, there's nothing wrong with it fundamentally. And I think there's actually a lot of evidence that suggests it's good for you to do that and to not be shaming yourself for those natural inclinations. And so, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
before you get
wasn't that
married,
with the dude keeping his wife in with some other guy?
yes, that's the dude I'm referring to.
Oh, that was weird. That was so weird.
I mean, you know, I was playing along because I thought we were going to get to a point, but I don't know if I really felt like we did, but that's okay. Not every caller
all
is
I
going to
know.
get to the point that makes me happy with the call, and that's all right.
I've had friends that are polycules or swingers or whatever. I understand that's a thing that happens, but Jesus Christ, that was fucking weird.
Yeah, there's a great book called Polysecure that I would recommend to even people who aren't polyamorous. It's just about like attachment styles and security in relationships and how like,
Mhm.
you know, maybe if your friend is like, dude, your wife is so hot, like I jerk off to her every single night, or you can be like, okay, that was maybe too much information for you to tell me, but like, cool. Like, I agree, she's hot, you know, or something like that. Like, you don't have to, there's a level of security that you can have that the notion that someone's attracted to your wife shouldn't be like a sign of like insecurity for you or a sign of like they have done something like deeply wrong and impure that you should be like disgusted by.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Uh,
I know you got a few more calls going on. I just wanted to toss out my
Thanks.
ideas. You guys have been great. First time, long time. I might call in again.
well, thank you so much, Mickey. I'm glad you called and call
Yeah.
back again sometime. Talk to you later.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Also, I forgot about it until I just looked at the call notes that he mentioned lockpicking, and I was gonna tell him that Matt is also super into lockpicking because he watches
Ah.
this one fucking YouTuber who starts every video with "This is the lockpicking lawyer," and for some reason my brain goes to that song. This is the story of a girl. Who's
This
that
is
by?
the story of a girl.
Yes.
I know the song. I don't
Absolutely,
know who
by
sings.
9 Days. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I would not have known the
I Googled
artist
it.
or the song name.
My Google
but
foo
yes,
is
I know the song.
out of control. Yeah. Every time he watches those videos, he hasn't watched them in a while, but I always think that. Anyway, we've got 2 callers left. We're going to get to them both. The first up, we've got Taylor, pronouncing him, in Connecticut. What is evolutionary Calvinism, as they were insulted by the term in an argument with a theist? Don't really follow. So, Taylor, let us know what's going on. Taylor in Connecticut, you're live.
Hi, how are you? I had a conversation with a theist. This is the first one I had ever had, and it was like an 8-hour-long conversation where we were trying to connect on our differences. But at the end of it, he kind of admitted that he didn't all the way believe in evolution. And when I was sharing my understanding of evolution, he said I sounded like an evolutionary Calvinist. I was accused of being an evolutionary Calvinist by a theist. And when I Google that term, it just brings up Calvinism, and I have no idea what that is. And if there's a group of people that might have heard what that theist was trying to call me in a slightly insulting way, it might be you guys. But I understand it's totally off topic. So if you'd prefer not to talk about it, I can try calling another time.
I think
I just Googled it.
Calvinism is generally
Um,
regarded as like a little
yeah.
bit more of a loose denomination of Christianity, right? Maybe not as fundamentalist. So maybe
When I looked
it's
up the
very
definition-
I got it
fundamental.
backwards. Okay.
It's very fundamental.
When I looked up the definition of Calvinism, I had no idea what it meant. It just looked like a bunch of comments about doctrine that I didn't know the difference between. Like they're splitting hairs in Christianity,
So,
and I really had no idea what it meant. So I felt like I was at a complete dead end.
it says like, because I went into Calvinism right before I like exited out of Christianity, and I feel like there was a conversation that we had with the pastor where he believed in some forms of like a little bit of like micro evolution or macro, one of the two, because we had some questions about it. And so it says some strict Calvinists welcome the idea of natural selection, as it did not entail inevitable progress, and humanity could be seen as a fallen race requiring salvation. So I don't think they believe necessarily, like, I know they don't believe in like evolution as in like the Big Bang. They still believe in creationism, that God created all things, including human beings, in his own image. But evolutionary, that's creationist. But I don't know what that means.
Well, anyways,
that you're
I
an
didn't mean to.
evolutionary
I didn't mean to
Calvinist.
stump you guys. I'll keep looking on my own. I don't mean to treat you guys like a Google search or anything. But you're
No,
doing
you're
a great
good.
job. Thank you so
No,
much.
I wish
I've
I had
never
heard. I'm so
that
curious.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just, yeah, I would honestly call and talk to somebody like Matt.
Yeah,
Or
maybe also check out. I don't
Matt,
know if
yeah.
we have I don't know how active our line Discord is. I know our producer Discord is active because I'm in it every day, but I don't know the general line Discord. There might be some sort of group where you could connect to some people or even
Okay,
just
I'll
look
try
in
that.
chat to see if there's something going on there. But yeah, anyway, sorry we couldn't help. Thanks, Taylor.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
yeah.
Alrighty, we have one caller left for the night, and we are going to talk to John in Pennsylvania. Wants to know the question of whether does God care about our purity depends on. The question of whether God cares about our purity, which is the title of the show, depends on which God you're talking about. So, John in Pennsylvania, pronouns are he, him. You are
Hi.
live.
Hi, Arden. Okay, really quick. I think maybe Calvinistic determinism has something to do with determinism, because Calvinists believe that only certain people are predestined for heaven.
I think he
At the
said
beginning of
Calvinist
creation?
evolution, though, not determinism.
I know,
Yeah.
but he may have been making an argument that sounded like determinism in evolution.
I don't know,
And if
but
things
that's
are
an argument
determined-
neither of us were there for. So tell us what you want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that. Oh God, I'll make it really quick because I'm looking right at the beginning of all of this. Think about what it took for like a backwater, which was Israel at the time when Paul put the scriptures out into Macedonia or whatever, and it would have completely died out with all the other gods of the ancient world, except for Constantine making it into Christian nationalism. And what I mean by that is simply that we wouldn't be having any of these horrible problems with this system of thought if it weren't for that. And it goes back, if you read in Genesis, the expulsion from the garden, you don't see that in any other kinds of mythic stories. The expulsion of the garden mirrors exactly a person's coming of age and sexual awareness. Father doesn't want them in, they can create their own families, get the hell out of here. And it puts a completely chilling effect on sexuality, and it sets the whole thing in motion, I think. Now, there are many interpretations of Genesis, but that's the one that seems to stick with me throughout all these years. I used to be a serious Catholic at one point. I was going to go into the monastery at one point, but I just couldn't give up my sexuality. And I couldn't give up, and then up close and personal with all of those people that were actually doing it, they were, I hate to say it, they were oddballs. And what I mean to say is that this system of thinking infects us at the most fundamental level of our personhood, our sexual nature. And so that's why I said it depends on what God you believe in, because I'm sure that the gods of the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire looked sidelong at all of this. They didn't have to constantly go to the temple for sacrifices because they violated some 614 laws that were impossible to keep. It was a real Gordian's knot, I think, and I think that it's unfortunate because if it didn't happen with Constantine, let's say if Hadrian, let's say, made his religion the religion of the West, we'd be burning incense to his homosexual lover instead of worshiping Jesus. It's an accident of culture.
Yeah,
it's a complete accident of culture.
I completely recognize that there's probably many gods who don't have the same degree of sexual shame the Christian God does. I mean, that's kind of why it's framed as a question too, right? We're kind of trying to bait in callers who would defend that position that God does care about our purity to call in and explain why, and to kind of get into a deeper conversation there about, how do we know God cares about purity? Does God even exist? Like, and all these sorts of things. So I get what you're saying, and I would love it if we were burning incense to our homosexual lovers. That sounds like a fantastic future, but it's not the one we live in.
Antonius is absolutely. He died. He drowned. Apparently, he drowned in the Nile, and Hadrian was so despondent, made him a deity, as they were all. Any illustrious person was made into a deity then, and people were required to burn incense to him. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everyone was going about their own day, but you say you burned incense there and there. Nothing was made. So I guess what I'm saying is that the feature of the religion is so preposterous, and it's very singular, because you go east of the Suez, you don't find this human beings against nature concept. You find more a harmonious connection with nature. And if you look at the other gods and what they might purport, there's a mythology. It's when they talk about sexual things being sexually wrong, it's always cast in terms of what harm are you doing? Are you leading someone on? Are you pretending you love them and then ditching them? Are you creating babies without taking care of them? It's always very practical. You know, it has nothing to do with the act of sex itself, in sense in and of itself is wrong. It has to do with the consequences of bad behavior, completely missing from the Bible and completely missing from this preposterous tradition, and all of its manifested horrors. And I'm sorry, I just had to mouth off like that. Somebody like Matthew was just, first of all, I hate to say it, but he was so dishonest, and the way he left the call really made me angry, because he just left the call without listening to you guys. He basically said, I got you to think the way I think, and then he left.
Matthew's done that many times. Sorry, go on, Stacie.
We didn't think the way he thought. He thought we might have, but we didn't. Yeah.
Of course, but his whole thing is control, because he doesn't have anything to stand on, so he's going to get violent about he's going to get passive aggressive and violent.
Passive aggressive, I can see. I'm not so sure I see violence, but I mean that's been, and Matthew's got thick skin, because our audience has been talking shit about him since his first call, like months ago, and he still calls in and he acknowledges that the chat talks shit about him. So I know he's got thick skin, and I don't mind saying how I feel, but this has been a problem with Matthew that I've had several times, where he'll say, "Oh, see, we agree on this thing," and I'll say, "No, we don't agree on this thing," and then he'll like dig in. In fact, I think there was a clip from a couple weeks ago that I released where it was specifically that frustration rolling over him, where we did agree. But anyway, I don't want to rant about Matthew, because he's gone, and we're done.
I'm sorry you brought it up.
No, it's all right.
Anyway,
I get you.
That's all I wanted to bring up, and so my conclusion, from my opinion, is if this stupid idea didn't escape the Levant and infect the rest of the culture in the way it did, and snowball and be used as a weapon, then we wouldn't have the conversation. Is God in favor of purity culture or not? Or can we justify it?
Yeah, I would love to live in that world. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think we do. I
know, but I know we have to push back, and we have to cut this thing off at its legs, because something like Project 2025 is rolling down the pike at us, and like they said, it will be bloodless if the left allows it. So.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. Yep. I mean, and that's what the show is for, to take on these conversations. So, thank you, John. If you got nothing else, we're going to let you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Alrighty. We are about to move on to our super chats. If you want to send a super chat of $5 or more, we'll read it live on air. People said I'm teleporting around. Am I having latency issues? Was I glitching?
I don't know.
Hopefully not. Hopefully that was on your end, chatter. Anyway, I'm going to do our announcements of shows one more time, and then we'll move on to chat, so that way I don't have to deal with it anywhere. Oh, also, let me close out Colin's studio, so I'm not spending money when there's nobody here. Also, huge thank you to Phoebe. I know something came up for her as a personal issue, and she had to leave, so thank you for screening the calls you did. We appreciate you. If you want to stay tuned into all the other awesome shows that we do here on the line, tomorrow night on The Hang Up, Matt Dillahunty will be joined by Andrew Seidel, which will be, of course, a very exciting episode, because he hasn't been on since Joe Biden lost since there was an attempted assassination and Joe Biden dropped out of the race and Kamala has jumped in and her polls are soaring and all these crazy things. We need to hear from Andrew. Thursday on Takis, it'll be Josie Caballero and myself. Sunday will be Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels and Forrest Valkai on the early show and Matt and Forrest on the late show. Forrest will be hosting Skep Talk next Monday, and then next Tuesday, right here on Chewed Gum, will be hosted by Alyssa and a unconfirmed guest. But Stacie, if you're ready, we will hop into some super chats. You want to go first?
Sure. $5 from William Mates. Oh, great wise women of the internet, reveal to me your profound wisdom. Temple chanting ghostly whispers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, William. $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Sad that I can't stay. Got game night. But Matthew, my boy, you're part of a religion that makes you awful. You're better than this, IRL. Man, chat really talks mad shit. I'm glad Matthew has shown that he's got thick skin because I want him to keep calling because he's one of the few honest interlocutors as far as theists go, which is, maybe not saying a whole lot, but yeah. Anyway.
£5 from Herbie Shine. Haven't got the energy to watch tonight. Midnight in the UK. Look forward to watching in the morning. Aw, thank you.
Nay, Herbie. Hope you slept well.
Yeah, have a good sleep.
$10 on the Raven 200. You are strong, child, but I am beyond strength. I am the end, and I have come for you, Finn. Wait, this is the line. Jimmy, I blame you. Go take a wind release, air cut, or wild dance by Tamari. Nice.
I love his or their super chats. It's amazing.
They're great. Yeah. I like this one because it's not wrestling, so I kind of actually know the reference for once.
I always get excited to see, okay, what are they going to write? $5 Australian? I don't know what that one is. From Ruben Manzo. Okay. Does God care about purity about purity? Probably not, but you definitely should. Is that a joke? Probably. I'm assuming it is. If not, I don't care about purity.
Yeah. If not, you should have called in to defend it. I wanted somebody to defend. Like, all Matthew did was try to appeal to how we already are engaging in purity culture, which we're obviously not. But nobody cared to try to actually defend purity culture. Not once in the whole show. It's a shame. We have $4.99 from Jesse Jurdak. Hey, Jesse, I saw you in the chat. Thank you for watching. The two of you are beyond patient, very inspiring. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. That's so nice. Another $5 from William Mates. Have you guys seen anything from the Men Writing Women or Bads Women Anatomy subreddits? Do your boobs boobily as you walk / sarcasm. I have not seen that in any subreddits.
I don't know if I've seen those subreddits. I mean, I've definitely seen some examples of like men, like the really bad science and biology that we used to have about women's bodies, because they were kind of framed from this conception of like everyone's male when they're born and women are just like the inferior male who doesn't develop fully. Like I've seen that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
I have at Bajakan. Forrest talk was so good. I hope he puts it on his channel, but he was talking about how our medical journal or our medical textbooks are still so outdated that a lot of them are still just referring to studies on men. Like they are not updated to even including women in their, like what their any of their medical sciences. It's just all to do with men. So I'm like, that blew me away. He did a lot on just like how everything to do with females is just so far behind, and don't even, not to mention just even like trans men and women. So yeah, it's very backwards. You'd think we'd be further ahead, but we're not. So
it's a tendency in people in academia to be like, oh, this study has been validated and used for so long that it must still be good, not acknowledging that, a lot of these studies were made in like the latter half of the 20th century and
Yeah.
were conducted only on men at the time. And so like the
Yeah.
population that you're sourcing is so skewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very
He
frustrating.
he even mentioned the crash test for in cars being like the height and average weight for men, and even if they do use like somewhat women dummies, they just kind of adjust it slightly for a smaller weight, but not even like the body size. And he was saying how more women die in car crashes because they don't even test the cars based on like size for women. So I was just sitting there like, holy shit, do we ever get shafted in so many areas? So yeah,
Yeah.
anyways.
No, academia's got a long way
I-
to go.
Yeah.
Forrest brought on
Yeah.
this amazing researcher who I wish we could have on, but I think she just got a new job in research where they don't like allow her to be on
Okay.
social media very much in
Oh,
this capacity, which is a shame because
right.
I follow her now and I think she's so cool and I really want to bring her on because like women in
Yeah.
research is such a rare thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, unfortunately I don't think she's gonna be able to be a guest again anytime soon.
Oh,
So
dear.
so frustrating.
That's too bad.
$20 from Ellie Fairfield. How do you figure out if your jealousy towards another person is due to conditioning or if it will diminish? I'm a person who feels like I could be poly. When I've attempted, I've gotten anxious, largely due to jealousy. Yeah, I think I would recommend you look into polysecure. It sounds like you maybe have like a bit of an anxious attachment style where when you feel like you're losing your partner, that stresses you out and maybe leads you to act out in ways to like try to reclaim that
Mhm.
security. Obviously I don't know you, I'm not diagnosing you. I'm not like your therapist or
Yeah.
anything, but yeah, this is one of those things that I just
Yeah.
like can't relate to. I've never really been a jealous person and
Yeah.
Matt wouldn't consider himself poly. I consider myself poly. We're perfectly happy together, but I'm always like, oh, like that girl's flirting with you. You should totally flirt back. And he'll be like, no, I don't want to. Why are you telling me to do that? He gets like stressed and nervous about it.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
don't relate to jealousy at all. I don't.
Yeah,
think
I
I feel.
feel like I'm very much the same. What is that term when you're the not the jealousy, but you kind of lean into you get kind of more of like an excitement rather than a jealous feeling when I
Compersion?
can't remember the name of compersion.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would actually research and there's a really good TED talk on compersion, and kind of learn more about that. And there's so many podcasts and talks and books on poly and that kind of thing. So I would just read more on that and just see what your attachment style is. So, but definitely look into compersion, and there is an amazing TED talk on it. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Also, someone in chat said jealousy is a normal emotion. I think that's maybe another part of it is like not harping on yourself
Yeah.
and like feeling bad for feeling jealousy. Like it's okay to feel those
Yeah.
emotions, but I think what you have to do is like digest it and be like, okay, jealousy is a normal emotion,
Yeah.
but I know this person loves me. I know our relationship
Yeah.
is strong. And so this isn't, despite how I feel, this might not necessarily actually be a violation of like our relationship or I dynamic or whatever.
Yeah. That's a good point. $10 from Terrible Liar. When I was a teenager, a family member told me that God's punishment for watching porn is that I would never be able to stop thinking about it. I think they told on themselves there. Yes, I was told the same thing, that once you see it, you will never get those images out of your head. They will just flash in front of you at the most random times. And like, yeah, I was told it would be like, remember when, well, maybe they still have these on computers, but they would be like those pop-ups that would just come up on your screen and you couldn't click them and get them away. That's how I told it would be in your brain. It would be like those pop-ups and you couldn't click them away fast enough and you would just see them nonstop. And so that's why another reason why you shouldn't watch porn. And I've watched porn and I don't have those pop-ups.
It's so funny. What's the saying? Like
Yeah.
every conservative accusation is a confession or whatever. That's how that
Yeah.
feels to me.
Yeah, definitely.
$5 from William Mattis. As an asexual, I buy lube for constipation. Ew. Sorry, I shouldn't say
Great.
ew. I'm not trying to shame you, but like ew.
No,
You
that's
should
a lot of
get
information.
a like bidet. Maybe that will help with that. God, I feel bad. I
Thank
said
you for
ew. Sorry, William, but
no, it's fine. It's just that's a lot of information.
yep, I
Okay.
did not need that.
Oh, $5 from the Raven 200. The only body counts I care about are in Halo and COD and the band body count. Jimmy, go take an 8 trigrams, Twin Lions crumbling attack by Hinata. Okay.
COD is Call of Duty, so they're saying like
Okay,
game
thank you. I
counts.
knew
Like,
it was a game, but I was like, I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
what that game is because I don't play them. But okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Also, I love Hinata, but so underrated, as are all the women in Naruto. Woefully relegated to the sidelines here. $10 from secular felinist. Good to have you back, Arden. We missed you. Well, thank you guys. It's good to be back. I'll be honest, it's good to be back in my regular flow. Well, I really needed my vacation. I really enjoyed it. I felt so refreshed from it. It feels really good to be back in like my normal day-to-day routine again and feel like I'm not quite as like, I don't know, just anxious watching things happen on the line and having no control over it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta get back in my seat.
That's awesome. $5 from Aliciana. Hope I'm saying that right. Aliciana Silverbow. My uncle suggested I should put horse manure on my strawberries. I'm switching back to whipped cream. Great.
Nice. That's good.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. I would switch back too.
Might help them grow.
Okay.
Probably doesn't taste too
Yes,
good.
yes. Yeah.
$10 from Big Black Corvette. I'm glad you've returned from your trip, Arden. Welcome back. I have cut off so many extended family for being turfs about Iman Khalif. I love them, but I have no tolerance for hate. Yeah, I was really good on this break. I didn't while I was there, I tried really hard not to pick fights with my family and to mostly because I was around my little brother a lot, and none of that stuff is his problem. He's a kid, so I don't need him to be in the drama that I have with my dad or our disagreements on politics. I just wanted him to have a good time and feel like I was present for him. But I have been arguing with my family online a lot more often lately because I feel like people who are conservative and who think that, a traitorous insurrectionist bigot should be president again should feel shame for the things that they believe. And I am willing to be the one who casts the shame on them for that to be the case.
Yeah. $5 from Taylor Made at 28. This show is great. I would love to see Mandisa Thomas on Chewed Gum. I'd like to hear her take some of the topics talked about on this show.
I love that idea.
What is this one? Yeah, what is Go Fuck Yourself? Jimmy, Go Fuck Yourself.
Okay. Yeah, they did it out of order, so.
Yeah, I was like, hold on. I know some of this. Yeah. Jimmy, Go Fuck Yourself.
Yeah, I would love to get Mandisa on. I'll have to message her and see if she has any interest in that next time we have an opening. That would be great. $4.99 from Ramona. The thought of marrying someone and finding out during the ceremony that they suck at kissing.
Yes. That would be
what a nightmare.
Awful. I'm sure there's people who have done that and then been like, what did I just do?
I think, I don't know if it was on that show, what is it? Love is Blind, maybe? Where like they start out not seeing each other and then after like they get like a week of hanging out with each other or something like that before they get married. The timeline might be different than that, but the gist of it, I don't remember if it was on that or if it was like actually just a conservative person, but there is one video of somebody in this situation having a terrible kiss at the wedding that I've seen, and it was just as cringy as you think it should be. I feel so bad.
Yeah. There was one show. I think it's from like early 2000s. It was one of those ones on like TLC, and they waited till their wedding day to have a kiss, and it was like a dog, like sloppy kiss, and it went viral. So I'm sure a lot of people know what I'm talking about, and it was So awkward. So anyways, okay.
Oh my God.
Another $5 from the Raven 200. Arden, since you mentioned wrestling, tell Jimmy to go take a power bomb plus an Eradicator by Nia Jax and Locked in a Figure 8 by Charlotte Flair. Okay. We will tell him.
I probably won't actually tell him, but thanks.
No. I'll take a screenshot and
I think I saw Jimmy in the chat earlier. Maybe he's watching. I don't know.
he was trying to fix something.
Then we got $5 from William Mattis. Unfortunately, getting shafted is what many men think the point of women is. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just had one come in from President Starscream. Is sleeping with your clone gay or self-love? Asking for a friend. Both.
There you go.
Gay self-love. All right.
There you go.
That has been the show, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Also, be sure to go subscribe to the Stacie's Mom podcast that Stacie has. Go check that out. And Stacie, is there anything else you got going on before we wrap up?
Not at the moment. We have been very busy with just summer and then getting ready to go to Bajakan. So we'll be having some new shows coming out very soon after connecting with lots of people there. It's a good time to be like, hey, do you want to come on our show? And they're like, yeah, for sure. So I think in the next few weeks, we'll be finalizing those details and having lots of really great people come on. And we're excited for that. So yeah, subscribe because we're excited about who's coming on our show.
Yes, go do that. If one of the mods could drop the link in the chat, I might have missed getting it in the description, but I will get it in so anyone who's watching this back will get it going forward. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to Phoebe for screening, and thank you to all the mods for being here, helping keep the chat respectful. Well, maybe not to Matthew, but respectful otherwise. You guys have a lovely night. We will see you all next week. Bye. Also, if you want to support us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/calltheline. You get access to an exclusive podcast. You can get your name in the credits of every show. And you can get access to some secret Zoom Q&A sessions that we do from time to time. Lots of cool things. And it is the best way to help us keep the lights on. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Yeah.